All right. Well, thank you, Council, for joining us, and members of staff, and anybody else who happens to be on the line monitoring or picking up this broadcast. We appreciate you, your attendance, and appreciate you, councillors, all taking the effort to be part of this process. So I will call this meeting to order at this hour, and we will commence with our first item of the business, which of course is to ask the clerk to give us an update on the process of this meeting and any other future meetings during this emergency crisis. So I'll turn the chair over to the clerk to carry this section of the meeting. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay. So last week, the province of Ontario passed emergency legislation. And in that legislation, it allows council to enact a bylaw, to amend their procedure bylaw to meet electronically. And it's a little bit different than the electronic participation that's permitted currently for regular sessions, in that the province has said during a state of emergency that's been declared, electronic participation counts as quorum. So that's a huge difference, and that is what council is going to vote on when you consider the bylaw under item number 2. And just for the benefit of members of the public that are watching, maybe we can just go over how we're going to vote, and also how we're going to get attention for the chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Pam. Yes, this is a whole new world for us for sure, and it will be a patient process for us to continue to conduct the business of the Corporation of Clearview Township. So I'll first of all want to acknowledge online joining us, of course, is our CAO and our clerk, and we have other assets and resources available to us. Our deputy clerk, and I believe some of our staff may be standing by that the CAO may draw upon. So at this point, I just want to acknowledge we do have all members of council joining us at this time, with the exception of Councillor Broderick. We're still waiting for him to join us, and so hopefully he will. Oh, yes, go ahead, Councillor Clerk, or Madam Clerk, I mean.
Councillor Broderick is here.
Oh, good. So we want to welcome Councillor Broderick. We now have our full council joining us on this virtual council meeting. So what we've done is we've asked all council members to keep their microphones muted, and all participants muted during the process unless they wish to speak. And again, the acknowledgement of if they wish to speak is what you just saw the clerk do, and that is to wave her hand like so, and that would get the attention of myself or the clerk to bring attention to them that they wish to speak. Another thing we're going to do during this process, council, is that during voting, I will, of course, read the motion. I'll ask for a mover and seconder. I'll look on the screen for a mover. If you wanted to be a mover of a motion, put your hand up, and then I'll take it, and I'll also call for a seconder. And then for voting, I'll ask you to raise your hand if you're in favor and or opposed, but I'll ask you to raise your hand and keep it next to your face. That way we can clearly see your vote. So if it was an in favor, you would go like so. Okay, so I would just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that. I know we already went over this a moment ago as we were kind of setting this up and getting it working, so I'm glad that people had the opportunity. I tell you what, since we did not have an opportunity to check in with Councillor Broderick, I'd like to give him an opportunity just to say hello to make sure his audio and everything is working. Madam Clerk, can we go to Mr. Broderick?
Good morning, or good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Councillor Broderick. Glad you're able to join us.
Me too.
Thank you. Okay, so Madam Clerk, at this point, I'm just going to ask, is there any questions about this process before we go to the bylaw? Is there anything that any member would like to ask in regards to this process that we're about to go through? Okay, seeing none. I appreciate that very much. All right, well, thank you, first of all, Madam Clerk, for preparing this, and I'm sure it's been an awful lot of work to go through and assemble an amendment to the procedural bylaw, and also to sort of absorb the information that's flowing from the province quite quickly. Bill 187 was, assembled in a real hurry, and we're glad that the province was able to do that for us, and also glad that you were able to prepare this recommendation. So I'm going to move to item number 2, which is the bylaw number 20-25, procedural bylaw amendment. A recommendation, be it resolved that bylaw 20-25, being a bylaw to amend the Township of Clearview procedure bylaw, item 12 19. Be presented and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed here on the 26th day of March 2020. A mover and seconder, please. Mover would be Councillor Patterson and seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much. Is there any questions or comments in regards to the report? I believe you've all had a chance to see it. Councillor Patterson.
If you're asking for a comment on the content, there's just one thing, just a further clarification, minor. In one of the sections near the end where it says if a member can no longer participate by electronic means, it will not affect the validity of the meeting or discussion made. And of course, that's right. I would, and there was a reference earlier about quorum, but I wonder if it'd be useful just to say unless it affected quorum.
Yeah, so that's
yeah, I'll take that to the clerk. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
okay, so that's certainly the intent of that section. And you're right, we always have to have quorum present, so that's why it's identified up above. However, it's just in the case that, say because of bandwidth issues, we were to lose one person and they were having trouble connecting back in, just because of the nature of this meeting, the chair would make a decision at that time if we were going to continue forward or wait for that member of council to reconnect.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Any further questions or comments in regards to this bylaw that's going to amend our procedural bylaw? I don't see any. Oh, okay. Councillor McKechnie, please go ahead. Councillor McKechnie, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I think I'm being called. Just wondering if you could, just excuse me, my secretary will get that. Just wondering if we could, if the clerk could advise us how this is going to affect the boards and committees, if it will be affecting them as well. Thank you.
Mike, thank you very much. I will go to the clerk. My comment, though, will be, of course, the procedural bylaw is impacted on every committee across the Township of Clearview. So your question is really important. Madam Clerk, could you answer that?
Sure. So we did include boards and committees in our procedure, or sorry, in this procedure bylaw amendment as well. Not all municipalities are doing that, but our volunteers do an awful lot of work for us, and they need the ability to be able to meet and connect by means of what we're doing today to plan things for the future. So thinking forward to after this pandemic and what's going to be happening in our community. Please note, though, that Council has passed a cancellation of all meetings until April the 5th. So that applies to boards and committees as well. And what this procedure bylaw amendment allows is for boards and committees to meet electronically as well. And certainly the clerk's office would facilitate that. There is a section in the procedure bylaw, however, that does specify that if a meeting's called, the board chair or the committee chair, the mayor, and the clerk have to be in agreement. And the only reason for that is, as we go through this process, we don't know what it's going to look like. And we may have to deploy resources to other means. So we just want to make sure that we have the staffing resources, that we can still be having meetings, but that they're transparent and that members of the public can still see what's happening at our board and committees.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else? I don't see anything more. All right, then I'm prepared to call the motion. So at this time, I'll ask you've heard the motion as presented, and it's a bylaw. So I'm asking for those in favor to please advise. Those in favor? And I believe that carries.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that means we're now having a full-on virtual meeting. Even though we've already started the meeting, we have to pass that recommendation first. Item number 3 is the approval of the agenda. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated March 26, 2020 as presented. Mover and seconder, please. The Councillor Walker and Councillor Lamers. And anything further? Don't see anybody else. Okay, all those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much. And disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. I don't think there would be any. Thank you, Tom, for that. I agree with you. So, if anything comes up, of course, just bring your notice to us here in this meeting. We'll carry on. Okay, I'm going to go to item number 5, and I would like to read item number 5, and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. It's PW 010-2020, the relief from penalty for overdue water and sewer accounts. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby waive the penalty for water and sewer accounts beginning with March 2020 billing cycle and lasting until the COVID-19 response is over. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Dineen and Councillor Walker. Very good. Mr. CAO, would you be able to advise us on the recommendations from this and how this would be impactful for our residents?
Your Worship, I think I will defer to Mr. Ron, and perhaps he may defer to Kelly as well. Mike?
That'd be excellent. Thank you. Mr. Ron, would you like to join us and advise on this report?
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Worship. So the report tried to make it fairly basic that there are going to be impacts to the population all over the world, but for the purpose of this meeting for Clearview, and people may find it hard to keep up with all the bills. What this report does is it allows the penalty for any accounts in arrears to be waived while this is ongoing. What it does not do is reduce the bills for the actual usage of the water and sewer. As council will recall, a lot of detail and effort and work goes into the water and sewer rates. And there's also a legal obligation to have a water financial plan. And we hired external financial experts to put that all together. And it's based on everything that we need for operations, capital replacements. It looks at the work required for development and building up our systems to handle development. And we feel that the rates are set. We don't want to change the rates, but we can waive the penalties for overdue accounts without too much disruption to the actual workings of the systems.
Okay, Mr. Ron, if I may, so your recommendation is based on offering some type of relief during this obviously difficult time for our residents in regards to any penalties they may incur by basically being late on their payment. That's basically what you're recommending. Is that right, Mr.
Ron? Correct. So there is a bylaw 1470 requires that we charge a 5% penalty on any overdue accounts. And what this would allow us to do would be to just waive that penalty.
Very good. Thank you for your report. Mr. CIO, anything further, or I'll go to questions?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, then I'll go to questions. Anybody on the floor have any questions for this report? I'm looking for acknowledgements. Councillor Dineen, please go ahead. Open your microphone there, please.
Trying to do it. I should have just hit my space bar. So what Mike was alluding to then, there is no reduction in rates with people being home all day and maybe more usage of water and that sort of thing. Is that, you feel that that wasn't warranted? Like the hydro rates being leveled off and everything? That's just a question. And that was what you were mentioning, that we have to continue with that rate, with the rates for the water?
I'll go to Mr. Ron for that. Go ahead, Mr. Ron.
Thank you, Councillor Dineen, through the chair. That's what we're proposing, Councillor Dineen. There's an incredible amount of work going into to build our rates so that we are sustainable. Some legislation requires that we have that, and that those rates and the financial plan, it's called, are submitted to the MMAH. It would take an incredible amount of work to change that. Maybe council would have a different opinion, but I think for now we would leave the rates, waive the penalties, and if things become very bad. Maybe council could rethink that, and we would have to have our finance department and the experts recalculate those rates based on legislation and need.
Thanks,
Okay,
Mike.
thank you very much, Councillor Deneen. That's a good question. Anything further? No, you're okay. All right. Anybody else with any other questions to the report? Councillor McKechnie, go ahead. Councillor McKechnie.
So the motion that says that it will be in effect until the COVID-19 response is over. Should we maybe have some sort of a clarification on that, or maybe have a date that we can revisit this? What I'm thinking is that the township's response versus the county's response versus the province and federal response may all be different. So I'm just wondering if we should maybe have that a little bit tighter, that one sentence a bit tighter.
Okay, I'll defer to the CAO, but I'll add first that, of course, we are in a state of emergency as a result of the County of Simcoe and the Province of Ontario. And so we will obviously be following direction from our upper tier governments as to what, when the pandemic is declared over. I think the motion as presented is clear in the fact that we're waiting for this to end as well. So, Mr. CAO, any comments about that?
No, Your Worship. I think Mike was putting his hand up. I'm sure he's thought about that. I'll let Mike address it.
Oh, back to Mike then, please. I don't see Mike on my screen at this time, so thank you for jumping in. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to respond to the same manner that once the province declared the emergency over, then that would kind of be our cue to pick things up and start working towards some of the other problems that we're going to have to fix.
Thank you very much. Mr. CAO?
Yeah, and council, later on, if I get an opportunity, there's going to be an awful lot of decisions that we make or decisions that are mute as a result of the province declaring the emergency over. So I think Mike's use of that terminology is very appropriate.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. CAO. Okay, last time, any further questions on this? All right, seeing none, I've read the motion. You have a mover and seconder, so I will prepare to call the motion. All those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, if you could just advise if there's any change in Councillor Broderick's. I do not have him on my screen, so I believe he probably, did he have his hand up? Is that correct? Your microphone's muted, ma'am.
He voted in favor.
Thank you very much. Just making sure I don't see him on my screen, so I just want to ensure if there's any changes. Thank you very much. Okay, Council, moving on in our agenda, still on the first page. Item number 6. It is the PW 011-2020, the COVID-19 Response Transit Services. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1. Discontinue the Transit Route 2 for Creemore, effective immediately. Item 2, operate the Transit Route 1 Stainer on a Sunday schedule, 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., 7 days a week until further notice. And item number 3, offer free transit fare for customers until further notice. I think that should say, yeah, Transit Route 2. I read that incorrectly, sorry. Okay, I've read it. Is there a mover and seconder for this motion, please? Councillor Patterson, Councillor Lamers. Thank you. Is there any questions or comments in regards to this? Yes, Deputy Mayor Burton.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we should be shutting the transit down, period. You know, it's you know, they've said that it's difficult to keep them clean. There's no way of really sanitizing them, people getting on and off. I think for the protection of our staff who drive the bus and the protection of our citizens, I think we just shut down transit altogether until further notice.
Okay, Councillor Patterson.
I know that I have had an update on the traffic usage in Creemore up until January, and it was very low. And I'm assuming nothing has changed. There hasn't been any use in Creemore because of the COVID.
Okay, the Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Dan Perot is on, and he's prepared
Okay.
to speak to this.
Through the CAO, we'll go to Mr. Perot. Is that okay? Thank you. Okay, Mr. Perot, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, numbers on both routes have drastically declined. I was speaking with a representative from Landmark Transit just last evening. He was going to try to provide me with recent numbers, but in essence, the Creemore route, Route 2, is basically nil for the last few weeks, and the Stainer route is a handful at best. The purpose of the report was also obviously to address those transit needs in line with our partners at Lynx and Wasaga and Collingwood Transit. To my knowledge, they're still operating at this point, but like I said, the numbers are very low, and once I have those numbers from Daryl, I could share those with council if they'd like.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Perot, and thank you for your report. To Tom, or to the Deputy Mayor's comment, perhaps this is one of those items that we can continue to monitor as we go through this this crisis in our community, and it will be something that we can revisit at future meetings and ask for further information to help us make decisions beyond what is being presented at this time. Is that okay with you, Deputy Mayor?
In response, I am not going to support this motion because I feel we should be down completely at this stage. Especially, we've had 1 million, Canadians return over the weekend. So, some of those Canadians are from our area, and no doubt, this is going to be the big wave that's going to be coming in the next week or so. And I think it's prudent just to shut it all down. I will tell you that I was in touch with the warden, as I am on a pretty regular basis, and what's going on at county, and their numbers are down dramatically. And although they have not shut the system down, they are looking at and monitoring it very carefully. But I think we should be leaders in this and really just shut it down. I don't know how many people are taking it, but from what I gather, it's very few. And if they're using our system, it allows them to get into the other areas that already. Till now, Clearview has 0 cases. Collingwood has a couple of cases. Barrie has cases. So do we want to encourage our citizens to travel to these other areas where cases are happening and the possible of contamination through community connections? So I'm still recommending that we shut the whole system down for the safety of our citizens.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Madam Clerk, I recognize that you had someone getting some attention. I'd like to just add to the Deputy Mayor's comment. It's of my concern, honestly, that the users of the transit service, particularly in Stainer, some of them are actually heading off to work, and some of these jobs are listed as essential workers. I know there are some people who use the transit system who are accessing their jobs working in some takeout restaurants. And so that may very much impact their ability to get to their workplace and continue to provide service to people that need those takeout facilities. Certainly, it's a challenge, isn't it, with transit for those that are not able to operate in their own vehicles in a safe environment, and in this age of being physically distanced and isolating ourselves from people, it's understandable that they need to have transit options available to them. So the report calls for a reduction in the hours and to make it operate much similar to our Sunday service, which would line up with some job opportunity hours. So I would be in favor, honestly, of keeping this as something we can monitor, and we can react to this quickly by calling another meeting. I'm going to go to Pam first, Tom, because Pam had her hand forward, and then I've got Tom written down. Go ahead, Pam.
I think Councillor Leishman had her hand up to say something.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Please go ahead, Councillor Leishman.
Yes. Well, I was just going to say what you said, Doug, that I'd be reluctant to drop it now if we have people riding the Stainer bus that need to get to work. It's already hard enough for them. And if they're riding the bus, that means that they probably don't have a car. And if they do have to get to a takeout restaurant or something like that, then I would hate to cut them off from their job, especially at this time. But I think we should at least run it until April 6th. And then maybe we can get some more information from the transport company, the transit company, and tell us how people are using it, who is using it, and how necessary it is or isn't.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Leishman. I copy that. I'm going to go to Patterson. It'll go this. I'm glad we're getting a route here now. Mr. Patterson, then Mr. Lamers, and then over to the Deputy Mayor again. Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, thank you. What is the, so it must have been some consultation in the county with the public health unit. What has their advice been in terms of public transit that the county's offering?
Mr. Perot or the CAO, either one?
Yeah, I can take that, Your Worship. I did reach out to the county. Like I said, they are continuing on their full schedule for now. The precautions they're taking are that patrons are to use the bus for free, enter through the rear of the rear doors, but they are operating on a full schedule at this moment. That was as of Tuesday. So Collingwood was the other that I was able to get in touch with, and they've done the reduced route to their Sunday route. Enter through the back of the bus and free service.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to Councillor Lamers next. I have also the Deputy Mayor. Anybody else? Okay, Councillor Lamers. Oh, and Councillor Walker. Okay, Councillor Lamers first.
Yeah, first I wanted to see how many numbers we had, but since we don't have them, but Collingwood and Barrie and Wasaga Beach, they all have the rear opening doors. We only have one door in a bus. How are we protecting our drivers if we keep this going?
It's an excellent question. I'll go straight to Mr. Perot if you have any comments from the contractor on that.
That's not something that we discussed, unfortunately. The elimination of fares, I guess, would try to eliminate as much contact with the driver as possible. But we haven't had that logistics discussion just yet.
Okay, perhaps that's something you can further inquire as you know, we may end up coming back to this topic in another time. Deputy Mayor, you were going to jump in again, and then Councillor Walker.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just following the news blurbs that are out there and everything else, and I've watched carefully to what the Muskoka Simcoe medical, our chief medical officer is saying, and he says, we are starting to see cases show up through socialization now. So there's not just cases from people who have come in here from the States or from other countries. We're starting to see it through community contact. And because of that happening, I'm my position is, all it takes is one person who's going to travel to Collingwood to work at a fast food or handout restaurant, and they come in contact with somebody. The next thing you know, they're on one of our buses, and it's this virus is deadly, and I strongly think that we should just shut down the transit system and avoid as many opportunities as we can for it to get spread.
Okay, I appreciate your input, and you're right. We do follow the direction from the medical officer of health on most of these decisions, and I know you're all aware that we're having regular conferences with members at the county as well as at the health unit. So now I'm going to go to Walker, and then I see McKechnie next. Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was going to say is the fact that I do know of some that take this bus to the beach that work in the superstores, that work in the drugstores, and they use it around Stannard to go to work as well as the grocery stores and the drugstores. I think, though, this is something that has to be monitored closely with our neighbors. If they determine that they're going to shut down or stop it all, then we follow suit with our neighbors. I think we have to provide some type of opportunity for those that are working to continually get to work. Maybe we could deal with the cashless thing is a good idea, but I also wonder if there's some type of shielding with the manufacturer or with the bus people that supply the bus that we could put in front of the driver, so when they do come on, there is a bit of a shield that protects the driver from a possible infection at this point in time. And I believe the Sunday service will create a little bit of problems to some of those in their work schedules, but they'll have to work around that because we certainly need to do something with the scheduling. Sunday schedule works for most, and if it doesn't, well, they'll have to find an alternative way home. But I will support this motion. I think it's needed. The service is still needed beyond a reduced schedule.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walker. I believe I saw McKechnie, and was there anybody else who wanted to jump in? Pam, anything from your end? Oh, and Councillor Deneen. Okay. Mr. McKechnie, did you want to jump in on this topic?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question of process here. The Deputy Mayor indicated that he would not support this motion that's in front of us. So I'm just wondering, is it possible that he can put forward a motion then that we close it down, or do we have to deal with this motion that's in front of us right now? I'm just wondering about the procedure here.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate that. Madam Clerk, I don't believe we had an amendment. I think we just had a comment from the Deputy Mayor at that point. Madam Clerk, did you have any comment on that procedure question?
So what you could do, just looking at the motion. So the motion's actually set up in some very distinct sections. So number one is to discontinue the transit route. So if somebody requests it, you could vote on each section separately. Number two is to operate transit route number one, Stainer on Sunday schedule. Offer free transit for customers until further notice. Okay, so reading it again, I would just deal with this entire motion, and if it gets defeated, then put something else forward.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry, Councillor Deneen, I'm going to get you your question in a second, but I see the Deputy Mayor wanting to jump in real quick. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, if this motion was defeated, then I would put forth my motion to stop transit altogether. So yeah, I was of their opinion we had to defeat this motion first.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Deneen, go ahead.
Not used to a mouse, sorry.
No problem.
The people that are using it, if they are essential services, they should be well versed in isolation protocol. They should be carrying their own. I really like Councillor Walker's idea of working with the provider and having shields. I watched something on the news the other day, and they were talking to one of the doctors about taxi drivers. They were concerned about it. They said that as long as you keep your distancing and you do your hand washing, they said that even if you had an open window, the air would direct the opposite way to the person that you could infect, and it would go out the window, ideally, in the breeze. So there is a certain distance. That's why when someone coughs or speaks, that it just drops right off. And it is droplets. So these people, like I said, if they're essential services, they should be well versed in isolation, and they should be carrying their own protective wash and stuff. So until they're not needing it anymore, they need some way to get to work. But as for transit, I'm just not well versed in who uses it because I've never had the opportunity, but I'm just weighing in with my 2 cents worth. Thanks.
Councillor Deneen, I appreciate that comment, and I would ask that Mr. Perot take some of these comments and use those in his consultation with our contractor that operates our bus to provide some comfort to council that we have the safety of the operators and the bus drivers in mind. So I appreciate those comments. I recognize Councillor McKechnie. However, I see the CAO would like to jump in here as well. So Mr. CAO.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, members of council and staff. Just a couple comments. So the deputy mayor mentioned that if this motion was to be defeated, he would bring another motion forward, and that's great. However, for the potential that the motion would pass, I wonder if council would consider that in the event of this motion passes, that we have a subsequent motion from someone that would create the environment where upon the county and our neighbors shutting down their transit systems, that we would predetermine ahead of time that Clearview would follow suit. I think that might deal with both issues. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Mr. CAO, I've already written that down underneath the section of our agenda where you're going to be giving us a report. I was hoping that something like that we would do. So why don't you keep that until then, and then we'll bring it up then, because I think there's a lot of quick decisions that need to be made by the emergency operations group to react, and I think that's one of those items. Mr. Patterson had something. Pam, was there anybody else who had jumped in? Mr. McKechnie. So Patterson and then McKechnie, okay? Oh, correction. I'm sorry. McKechnie, you were first earlier. Sorry. Mr. McKechnie, go ahead, then Patterson.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship.
Sorry.
Just one last question or comment. So basically, our bus drivers, are they supplied with masks and gloves? Secondly, they do not have hand washing facilities, and thirdly, they are definitely within 6 feet of the people as they come on board, even though they're not taking money from them. We've closed our municipal offices to outsiders, and I would argue that people are definitely more, if they had to come into the municipal office, they're definitely further than 6 feet away from staff and such. So anyway, I have a concern about the well-being of the bus drivers, and at this time, I cannot support the motion as it stands in front of us either.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor McKechnie, and good points. I appreciate that. Mr. Patterson, go ahead.
As I believe I was the mover of the motion.
Yes, you are.
I would accept the comments made by CAO Sage as a friendly amendment, and that being that if in the event that the county, on the advice of the public health unit, were to discontinue their transit service, that the staff would be delegated the authority to proceed to do the same for Clearview Transit without the need for a special meeting, only because of the concern for the region at large, and also to simplify the process, not have to have a special meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. The seconder on that, I believe, was Walker. Is that correct, Pam?
No. No, it was Councillor Lamers.
Oh, Councillor Lamers. Councillor Lamers, do you accept the friendlier amendment as presented? Your microphone. Give me a thumbs up if you do. He does. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do you have a good recall of that friendly amendment so it could be added and you could read it to us?
Yes. So there would be number 4 added that in the event the county of Simcoe, on the advice of the Simcoe Muskoka Health Unit, were to close their transit, Clearview staff would be directed to also close down Clearview transit services.
Friendly amendment, fair. Anybody object to that? That's all good? Okay, so I think we've had a really good discussion here. I'm just going to call again. Is there anybody else with any other comments or questions? Pam, can you advise if Connie or Councillor Broderick are in there? No problem?
No, I didn't see them raise their hand.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, then the motion has 4 parts. We're going to vote on it as one complete motion. It's moved by Patterson and seconded by Lamers, including items 1, 2, 3, and 4. So at this time, I'm ready to call the motion. All those in favor of the motion? And those opposed?
Okay.
And Pam, I would believe that would be a carried.
Yes.
Okay.
The deputy mayor and Councillor McKechnie voted against.
Fair enough. Okay. It's only because I cannot see the other 2 councillors at this time. So thank you very much. All right, council, thank you very much. And I appreciate that friendly amendment, by the way. That adds clarity to the whole situation. All right, here we are. I do have a motion that's more of a statement than a motion, but it is a motion that I'd like this council to be supportive of. So I'll read it at this time. Support for measures implemented by the province of Ontario and the county of Simcoe. Recommendation: be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby support the social distancing measures implemented by the province of Ontario and the county of Simcoe, declaring a state of emergency, and cancel any Township of Clearview organized community events, including events occurring at Township-owned facilities, until the state of emergency and social distancing measures have been lifted by the province of Ontario and the county of Simcoe. Sir, mover and seconder, please. Deneen and Walker. Any questions on the motion as presented? Seeing no questions? Very good. I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that clarity. Item number 8 is the cancellation of our April the 6th council meeting, which is a previously scheduled council meeting. So we'd like to move ahead with that cancellation. Recommendation: be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby cancel the council meeting scheduled for April the 6th, 2020. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lamers, Councillor Deneen. Any questions on the cancellation? Councillor Lamers, please go ahead.
Yeah, how often are you going to hold these Zoom meetings? Can you reschedule that April 6th meeting to a Zoom meeting?
To be honest, Councillor, I will consult with the CAO and with the clerk, and also listen for advisement from any member of council if they have urgent pressing issues that need to come to council during this emergency time. And so holding a special or emergency council meeting is one of the procedures that is afforded the mayor to call. And that's why I've called this meeting today, which is an unusual thing for us on a Thursday at 1 o'clock. So, you know, I had a discussion with the emergency operations team about several items, and this is why we came forward with these items to prepare content for an agenda. And I'll continue to consult with the clerk and the CAO on that, as well as listen to every member of council if they wish to reach out to me and let me know if they have items that need to be brought forward in a council setting for direction of council. So again, if you recall, I sent a note out saying, how would Thursday work for people rather than Friday? And thank you, John. That's why we're here on Thursday. So there you go. Any other questions on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the motion then. All those in favor? And no opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. So, Mr. CAO, you're up next with a bit of a verbal report. Before you begin, I just want to advise all council, of course, the CAO and I are keeping in pretty close contact. You know, we either email, we text, we phone each other. We'll do our best to communicate, and we're doing everything we can. Both of us are receiving information from different parts of the province and the county at different times, and so we're basically collating together, and that's been very helpful during this whole process. So, Mr. CAO, if you'd like to give a bit of a report on activities that are going on in and around the township, and how are you doing there, Steve?
So thank you, Your Worship, members of council. So first, I'd like to let any member of council to contact me if you'd like some clarification today. There is so much going on so often that I'm going to miss something, I'm going to forget something. But if you have a question, give the mayor or myself a call, and we will provide you with the information. You know, right off the bat, I'll apologize. We're not providing you with all the information. It's just not possible. But I'll try and go through what I think is important. And but if there's anything else you need, we don't necessarily have to do it in this setting, but feel free to reach out to the mayor or myself. So I have a list, and I hope it's not a comprehensive list. I will tend to jump all over the place a little bit, and that's just because that's how things have been going down so far. So first, I'd like to commend the mayor. So for those of you who've been reading the emails from our mayor and some of his social postings that he has put out there, he's been doing a really good job of keeping the community and you informed from his point of view. The way he approaches sentences and delivers the message is far better than me, and so I really appreciate that. So he does a really good job of keeping you informed. But I guess some of the odd stuff is some of you have never been through this before. We have some staff that have been. Dan Perot was through the tornado in Essa. Perhaps some of us were involved with the tornado in Barrie, and I was through the ice storm. So unfortunately for some of us, how some of this moves forward is a bit familiar. Of course, none of us have been through a pandemic. But the declaration of the emergency by the County of Simcoe, to me, was more effective on us than the provincial one. And I could get into the weeds about what that means to us, but I will give you an update on the county status, and that might show you a little bit of the effect it could have on us. So the county did declare an emergency, and as a result of that, I'm going to tell you a few issues as to why. Number one, they've had a 35% increase in social assistance uptake calls at the customer service end. Their Ontario Works facility is being inundated with requests. They had some capacity in the crisis centers across our county, and that capacity has been filled to the brim and is overflowing. So some real issues with domestic violence that we're being updated on. What has that done to the county staff? Obviously, it's put many county staff at risk. So we are putting processes in place that our staff may be required to fill those voids created by redeployed county staff. I won't get into all the details of how that might work, but anybody can give me a call and I'd share what I know. But that will lead into my discussion about why I've done what we've done with our staff. County is always looking for additional PPE. So if any of you have contacts within the industry or within your neighborhoods or with people that you know that could help the county and our hospitals with personal protective equipment, that would be much appreciated. The county are working on a redeployment of their current staff, but unfortunately the majority of their staff are essential. That's about it from the county point of view. I know there are some concerns out there about the financial impact to a municipality as a result of the pandemic. Because our county declared an emergency, I have no concerns whatsoever with the financial well-being of the municipality in the event that funds are available from upper tier. A little bit about Premier Ford's announcement. There is some ambiguity still around what's essential and non-essential. You know, is the CAO essential? I don't think so. But is Mike Ron essential to run the roads department? Yes, he is. So, you know, some of those things are a bit ambiguous depending on the service you provide. I think, there are a couple of things that came out of the county recently talking about a deferral of the county tax rate. So the mayor is aware that this morning the province announced that the request for funds from the province for our school board portion has been deferred. So there's another payment owed by us to the province in June, and that has been delayed 30 days. So there was conversations about, would the county consider a similar relief for our payments to the county? But everybody has cash flow issues, and that has been discussed, but I'm not sure what action the county may be taking, if any. So that's a little bit on the county update. I want to just deal with what's been happening here at Clearview. I'll brief you first on the strategies and how the meetings are going forward. So every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., there is a county CAO's conference call that we discuss all of the actions taken by all members. I can tell you that out of the 16 municipalities in Simcoe County, generally, 15 of the 16 are taking exactly the same steps, including the cities. Wasaga Beach was a bit of an outlier until Monday afternoon, but now they're doing the same as the rest of us. And Toss Adge, quite frankly, have been not participating in anything. And that's fine, that's their choice. So then on Friday mornings at 10 o'clock, that same group of CAOs meet, but a little bit different.
I'm sorry, we've lost Steve's audio there. Can we pause for a moment? Steve, can you just check your audio, please? Steve? Madam Clerk, can you advise if, are you hearing Steve?
No, I'm not hearing Steve at all.
Okay.
Oh, there, I hear him a little bit now. No.
I don't think he's seeing me either, so he's not stopping. We're not hearing Steve, so. Although this is a really good report, this is the kind of information.
How about now?
Okay, Mr. Sage, you're back online. Thank you very much.
So after a few minutes, for those of you that are using a laptop and I just didn't do it, keep an eye. Sometimes it'll automatically mute on you. Okay, and that's what happened to me. And that happened in yesterday's meeting as well.
Very good.
So I'm not sure where I left off, but I'll jump right into Clearview. So the problem that we have with the pandemic and the decisions that we make is most people don't really understand the point of why we do what we do. And the most critical decision that the municipalities have made in the last 7 days is splitting our staff in half. That has been critical. So I went through the ice storm. So I don't know if any of you have before, but that clearly highlighted the issue of splitting staff in half. Because if half of Mike's water plant operators go down tomorrow because one of their family members just came back from Florida and gets COVID-19, we lose that entire team. Who is going to run the water plants? Well, we have 50% of our staff sitting waiting to take up the slack. Similarly, because the county declared an emergency, if Innisville or Bradford or Collingwood lost all of their sewer plant operators tomorrow, our staff have to be prepared to do that job. So it is very fluid, very regional, and we're all in this together. So that's why we do those types of things. As a result of the Premier's announcement, we have sent more staff to relocate and work from home. But the building department, accounts payable, accounts receivable, water, roads, sewer, and fire are continuing to work, same as always, split into two. And we have many protocols in place for their protection. That's about all I have to share. I can get into the details for hours, but I'm sure you don't want to hear all that today. Any questions, give me a call. Obviously ask some during this meeting. But we're doing well. We have some staff that aren't handling the pressure that well. And as senior staff, we are managing those people. And we currently have 5 staff isolated at home, 3 full-time staff, and 2 firemen. So that's the status of staff. With that, Your Worship, I take any questions if you have some.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. CAO. I want to first of all extend our thanks to you and your senior management team for embracing this this effort, as well as acknowledge that the emergency operations team, are genuinely working in the best interest of the citizens of Clearview. It's our #1 job, and it's our #1 focus is to continue to provide service for Clearview Township residents. That's what we're doing here, and frankly, that's the purpose of a municipality. So we're working for the citizens. There's no doubt about it, and I appreciate your input, as well as the input of all the members of the team. And we're certainly leaning on some of the experiences that have happened by some of our other staff that have gone through emergency situations before. And so we've got a really good balance of both experience, knowledge, and understanding of our community that's on this team. So I just want to share that with all members of council. Okay, so there's lots of questions that need to be asked. The deputy mayor has got his hand up first. Can I just ask, is there anybody else? And Councillor Deneen, and that's what I see at this point. Madam Clerk, is that right?
Councillor Leishman.
And Councillor Leishman. Okay, deputy mayor, and then Deneen, and then Leishman. Go ahead, Barry.
He's not muted.
Unmute your mic there, Barry.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
My question is for Steve. You mentioned that there's 5 staff members that are in self-isolation. Is that because they came in contact with somebody with the virus, or potentially came in contact with somebody with the virus? And the second part of that question is, do we know the count of people in Clearview that have been determined to have the?
So I'll try and answer those questions. So through our interaction with the medical officer of health, the number as of today in Clearview is 0. And similarly, if you follow along the Collingwood General Marine Hospital, those cases have been transient as well. So that's one thing I should have mentioned. If I was a counselor that had Twitter, I would be following 3 groups very closely: Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, Collingwood General Marine Hospital, and the County of Simcoe Emergency Operations Group. Any information that they provide, you'll have it before we have it. So that's where we get that information. With respect to our staff, there are multiple reasons why they are isolating at home. The very, very first staff person who isolated at home, quite frankly, did not feel very well, had some flu-like symptoms, and it's been quite obvious that it's not COVID-19. We have another staff person that isolated at home because of the direction given to her partner by her partner's employer. So out of abundance of caution, the buzzword for 2020, that staff person isolated at home. We have one other person isolating at home because I can tell you, frankly, they're not dealing with this very well. It's their health and their capacity has been affected by the psyche of this. It's not clinical. And the other 2 are 2 volunteer firemen that there was a call for our fire department for a CAO detector. And it became quite evident when they entered the facility that there were some other health concerns. So out of an abundance of caution, those 2 fire persons are isolating at home as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. Again, as we've stated earlier, and you're all aware, everything changes minute by minute as we go through this. So I'd like to update you on your question about Clearview Township. On my computer, I've got a report from the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit that outlines the 26 now cases that are present in Simcoe County. And this information was released just this morning at 9:30. And on it, they have in fact indicated that cases number 15 and 16 demonstrate or show that they are from Clearview. So those cases, while they have been under investigation, has not been shared with us until this time. And so, Mr. CAO, you could take a look at that on the website in a minute if you wish, or anybody can look at it. It's a public document. But I had this called up on my computer, waiting for the Dr. Gardner's press conference. He was having his press conference at 1 o'clock today as well. So I expect that this probably came out right after that press conference. So it does outline some of our various communities. You know, Barry's in here, Collingwood, Bradford, West Gwillimbury, Newtek, Agilitas, and there are 2 cases from Clearview that indicate they're as a result of travel. So that's the only information that's on this report right now. So obviously we will be monitoring this and pay a little more closer attention to it. Okay, thank you very much. See how things change quickly. Councillor Deneen, I believe you're next.
Thanks, Your Worship. Through yourself to the CAO, just asking, I know it was just yesterday the signs got made up for the playgrounds. I was out for a drive. They've got a lot to do, I know. I didn't see anything up, and I was wondering about those signs going up, a time frame for that, and also the dog parks. I know they've closed some of the dog parks around the area. I'm just wondering if there was any timeline for that sort of thing to be done. Thanks.
Mr. CAO?
So as you can appreciate, the decision for the signs was yesterday. So those signs don't fall out of the sky. So those signs are being installed as we speak. So they are being installed today. We brought Parks and Rec staff back in. They divided into 2 separate teams. I believe Graham Kempster's doing the north, Chad North doing the south, and so they're being installed today. The decisions to close our parks has not been made. Some municipalities have decided to close their parks. As an example, Bruce County decided to close their trail system. And the reason they did that is because of the GTA people immigrating to the Bruce Peninsula and hanging out in groups of hundreds. That hasn't occurred here yet. So we have not decided to quote unquote close. We've been warning people not to use them. That is something we could still consider, obviously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who is next on my list? I'm just looking. Does someone else have any questions for the CAO at this point?
Councillor Leishman.
Councillor Leishman. Yes, please. Go ahead, Councillor Leishman.
Thank you. I was wondering about if we can do anything for our businesses. I heard your interview this morning, and it did occur to me that we really haven't talked about our businesses and what kind of trouble they're going to be in. And I don't know what we can do. Personally, I've been tweeting out to people to go and get takeout, or, just, phone up the hardware store and get something if you need it. But I know they're hurting. I know they're going to be desperate in a couple of months. I mean, we're self-employed, we understand. And I don't know, maybe we can put on the website that you go to for Canada to get some relief or unemployment insurance or whatever, but I think we need to do something. We have to reach out to our business community somehow. Does anybody have any ideas?
I'll jump in there first. Council, I participated in a teleconference call with Minister MacLeod in regards to tourism in the province of Ontario. They obviously are, the tourism sector across Ontario has been hit tremendously hard. All the entertainers, concerts, bands, special events, everything is basically drawn to a screeching halt, as it should during this crisis. Nevertheless, the minister did indicate that there would be some funding available and positioning so that tourism would be able to basically launch immediately once the pandemic period is over, or the declaration of emergency is over. And so Minister MacLeod was really good about acknowledging that now is not the time to panic, now is the time to plan, which is actually a really interesting statement. We have to plan what we need to do when we come out of this, instead of panic while we're in the middle of it. So it's difficult. To answer your question though, Councillor Leishman, regarding businesses, that's a really ongoing and difficult question to answer, given that we have a lot of different businesses and diversity across our whole community. So, we're tasked with the responsibility of creating a balanced budget in the Township of Clearview, and that's how our taxation system and our fee schedules and so on are established. And you heard some of that in Mr. Ron's report about water. So it's difficult for us to continue to operate the municipality in midstream, mid-year, and I know it's only March, but still, as far as a budget process, we're already there, and we need to continue to maintain it. If extraordinary measures are delivered from the province to allow us to make these type of significant changes and create tax holidays, then I'm sure through Kelly and our CAO, you'll have a report on the next council meeting. But we'll be waiting for that. Mr. CAO, would you have any other further comments on that topic?
Yeah, to your comment, Your Worship, about the diversity of our businesses. So Councilor Leishman's 100% right. I've had many businesses reach out to me originally on determining whether they are essential or not. That was an interesting discussion. What our thoughts were and whether they were essential. Staff, Kelly hasn't been here this week because she's on the B team and I'm on the other team. But our accounts payable staff, we've determined that because we have a lot of invoices here that we need to pay to our local businesses, that we have made the decision that accounts payable is essential, because we would not want invoices sitting here at the township that we're not paying to our local businesses. So we've actually pushed that payment process forward to support our local businesses. On the other hand, I spent some time more than 2 meters apart with some of our business leaders last night, and they're actually excelling through this. And I think you can very quickly think of who they are. So the price of wheat in the last 72 hours has jumped 30% in the province of Ontario. So think about what that does to your neighbor there, Mr. Broderick. It does a lot. So if you were to make some decisions on how to support the businesses, the difference in the effect of the pandemic is across the board, and we'd look to council for that. But I think we should maybe wait and see what our upper tiers decide first.
I'd like to add as well that the province and the federal government have programs that they've been well talking about, and they have made promises. You've probably seen them in their press conferences where they've indicated that they're going to roll these things out immediately. And I think, to be honest, that's up to municipal leaders and municipal lobby organizations like AMO and Roma to basically hold them to it. We need their support. They know that we need their support, and I expect that they're obviously going to see that the municipalities like Clearview Township, businesses and so on, we're going to need the support. Thank you very much, Councillor Leishman. Is there any other questions, Councillor Leishman, from you? And then we're going to go to...
No, I don't have any questions. I'd just like to make a suggestion that maybe if council is reaching out to their citizens, they could suggest to them, they could reach out to their retailers or local artisans or whatever. There are going to be no summer shows. Art Fest is canceled. And I'm having done summer shows pretty much for 30 years. I know that was the money that we look forward to every summer to get us out of the hole. So I know there's other artisans that are in the same boat right now. And so if you do reach out to your citizens, please just remind them to reach out to other people as well. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leishman, and that's good advice. Councillor Patterson, I see, and Councillor McKechnie. Can I just ask, is there any other hands that are looking for questions to the CAO on this topic? Okay, Councillor Patterson and then McKechnie. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, a comment and a question to the CAO. I think some of us have probably noted through the advertisements in the Echo that our local BIA, the Board of Management, has done a good job gathering the information, the status of each of our businesses, whether they're open, whether they're not, the rest open for takeout, etc. And one of the messages that comes from that is that while we might be closed, for example, as a restaurant to table service, there's takeout. That's a message you hear from a lot of the restaurant sector, and it's certainly happening in Creemore, and I suspect that it's happening in Stayner and our other areas, and the Chamber and Stayner might be involved in that. Also, they're giving advice that the businesses are trying to adapt to this situation, and some have internet services, and so they're encouraging people to continue buying local, maybe consider doing more local shopping, and using their alternative ways or the services that have been there before using the internet. Question to the CAO, if we could open up our communications a little bit, fairly simply. The ad that was published in the back page of the Echo, for example, we can encourage the BIA to have that put on our website under the committee side with maybe a button in the front with a tag saying shop local, and perhaps ask the Chamber as well if they've organized their businesses in any way so that the public sees all that announcements in many businesses that have participated in that. So it's a question like to address to the CAO.
Okay, Mr. CAO, perhaps you could take a look at that and discuss that with our communications and IT people.
Absolutely, Your Worship, not a problem.
Good suggestion, Tom. Thank you for that. Okay, Mr. McKechnie, how are you doing there, Doug?
Thank you, Your Worship. Further to Councillor Leishman's comments regarding supporting our retailers. So I've decided, and maybe the rest of council can do this too, usually I wait until December 24th to do my Christmas shopping. This year I've decided to do it this month. And everyone in my family and all of you are going to get gifts certificates from local businesses. So that's one way to help the local businesses. Just get out and do your Christmas shopping now. You know, get gift cards, get gift certificates, and that'll get some cash into the local businesses' tills right now when they need it.
Thank you very much, Councillor McKechnie. I appreciate that. That's a good comment and a good suggestion. We're obviously all supporting local as best we can. Council, is there any other questions? Anybody else with any other questions or comments to the CAO in regards to his report?
Councillor Broderick.
Mr. Broderick, how are you doing, John?
Doing okay. It's more of a statement, really, and it backs up what Councillor Leishman was saying. Last night, we decided to pick up takeout in Stainer last night. We pulled in front of the restaurant about 6:30 last night, and it just struck me. My pickup was the only vehicle on the street, the absolute only vehicle on the street. So all of our businesses are certainly going to be affected here. They're all hurting. So yeah, it's something we need to be aware of, and it's a necessary measure. There's nothing we can do about that. It's a very, very serious situation. We need to take it very seriously. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Listen, John, I appreciate you doing that, and thank you very much. And I hope that you and your family are enjoying a little bit of takeout once in a while. It's kind of nice. Good for you. Over to you, Mr. Sage. You were going to say something?
Yes, Your Worship. So just my last comment, and I had it on my list of things to mention, and I apologize. There's a lot of events going on in our community that have been canceled, and there's a lot of, buck and does, and people are getting married, and this is a very difficult situation for our community. And I'm going to just remind everyone that the directive from the province and the medical officer of health was no gatherings exceeding 50 persons. But I unfortunately need to remind you that if you read on in that directive, and any gatherings of less than 50 outside of your home, you need to contact the health unit. So please, if you're talking to your groups, oh, we're going to stay under 50 so we can do whatever we want. That is not the case. So this is serious. This is all about fighting a virus. And I was remiss in not mentioning that. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Of course, that's again included in the advice that comes from the medical officer of health, and it does need to be repeated, and that's something we all appreciate. Okay, I think we're pretty well wrapped up there for questions of the CAO and his report. Again, I'll just advise council that I continue to meet with the CAO. We do have regular communications. Our control group, it's called the Emergency Operations Team Control Group. I guess we have to get a better title there, Steve. But nevertheless, our group does meet twice a month or twice a week, and we're doing it this next meeting in this format right here. And that meeting, sorry to report, it is a closed session. It's simply a staff meeting where staff direction's being done. So it's not a public participation type meeting. But I, of course, always do my best to communicate back to members of council anything that comes out of that is certainly relevant to our decision making in that regard. I acknowledge Mr. Patterson raised his hand. Is something you want to say, Tom?
Well, I think we all feel this way, and give us a chance to compliment and to thank the efforts of our senior staff. From a council point of view, we're a little bit out of the loop, not having as much contact with residents, although there's been some, and not having coming into to the staff and picking up one or two informations as we bits of information as we go along. So I've been very impressed actually by both the mayor and senior staff reports. Appreciate them very much, and they take what we hear regionally and across the nation and put it into a local context. So that's much appreciated. I have referred a number of people that have asked questions to our website, and not a single callback, which tells me that they are getting their answers, and because I know the answers are there when I refer to them. So very much appreciate the effort. We've really stepped up, and the best is coming forward.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patterson. I appreciate that. Just to back up what you're saying too, I know that Mr. Sage and I both have our phones with us pretty well all the time. I mean, we are there's an awful lot of communicating going on here, not just between each other, but between people that are serving our communities. So anyway, listen, that's it on this section of the agenda. I'm going to call for the confirmatory bylaw and the motion to adjourn. I'll just put it out. Is there any comments that anybody would like to make before I call these two quick motions? And Mr. Sage, is there anybody from your staff that has anything else to add if you've been communicating with them too? Any hands? Mr. Sage, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd like to make some comments about my senior staff too, Your Worship. They have been, to say they've been terrific is an understatement. They've been concise. They have been under a lot of pressure. They've had a few hours to do something that they normally have a few weeks to organize. And so I want to thank all of them for that. And that's not just the senior staff, it's been all of our staff. The unions come forward, library staff have come forward, fire department's been terrific. So I want to personally take this opportunity in front of you. Maybe I won't get an opportunity again, but they've been terrific. So if anybody else has some comments to make, feel free, guys. Now's the time.
Thank you very much. You bet. Is there any staff member who would like to join us at this time? Go ahead. Pam, are you seeing anybody jumping in? How about you, Pam? How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay, great.
You know, we're really busy, but you know, staff have been really great, and everybody's working together to get through this. And thank you to council for all of your support.
Very good. So again, council, as you heard the CAO talk about our A team, B team, or as I've said, the blue team and the green team. Steve is on the blue team, A team, and Pam is on the B team. She's on the green team. So Pam is going to be basically coming in and out of the office next week, or operating from home, whatever she, as the lead of that team, is responsible. The CAO will still be available, of course, but will not be, attending to the actual town hall itself, but will be available. Steve and I will still be communicating on a regular basis. Pam is going to be back in the office. Is that correct, Pam?
I'll most likely be working from home, but certainly if the need arises, I will be heading over to the office, and I'm always available on my cell phone. I have two of them, so everybody always knows how to get a hold of me.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 11. It's the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of this most extraordinary council meeting. A recommendation be it resolved that bylaw number 20-26, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the March 26, 2020 council meeting, be presented and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on the 26th day of March 2020. A mover and seconder, please. Mover and seconder, Mr. Walker and Mr. McKechnie. All right, you've heard the bylaw. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now I'll call for the motion to adjourn. Recommendation be it resolved that this council meeting be adjourned at, it says 2:23, so I'm going to say 2:24 p.m. A mover, please. Be Mr. Lamer, seconded by the deputy mayor. All those in favor? Very good. Thank you very much, council. I hope that this experience has been, painless for you to participate in this style of meeting. And I want to thank the clerk and all of our support staff that have prepared this Zoom meeting for us. So thank you very much. Madam Clerk, go ahead.
I just wanted to let council know that we had 16 people watching at one point in time.
Well, that's great to hear. Thank you very much for that, and all the best. Council, please stay in touch with members of our community. Reach out to your neighbors that you haven't talked to in a little while. Give them a phone call. Say, hey, how you doing? It's we're still a social community, even though we're doing social distancing. So stay in touch. Nice to see you all. We'll conclude this meeting at this time. Thank you.
I hope we don't have to do this much longer.
Thanks, Connie.
Everyone take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to bang your pots and pans.
That's going to be the new normal.
It's very cathartic.
Do your
Thank you all.
Christmas shopping.
Yeah,
Yes.
good idea, Doug. Christmas shopping. That's pretty funny.
That's okay,
Okay.
Doug. I need a gift.
I've got to go.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
I don't want to say goodbye.
Yeah, got to figure out how.